Deep in the heart of Tennessee, about 75 miles southeast of Nashville, there lies a headstone with no date and no epitaph, only a name: Sadie Baker. While that name may not mean much to most people, to the locals, Sadie is known by a different name: the Witch of Coffee County. That was a pretty sick intro, and I have no idea how to transition to the next part. Now, if you're anything like 10-year-old me, you probably heard that and just thought, a whole county based on coffee? Yes, please. I will move there tomorrow. But if you're an adult, you probably realize that it's not that kind of coffee. It was actually named after General John Coffee, who became famous due to his leadership during the War of 1812. He was also really good friends with Andrew Jackson and helped with the displacement of the indigenous people. Yay! Living in Tennessee is so awesome. Our entire history is racist and our present is not much better. Anyway, back to the story of Sadie. So, this takes place in the 1800s. There was a family by the name of the Sheltons in Manchester, Tennessee. Now, the Sheltons were the it family of Manchester. And if you grew up in a small town, you know exactly who this family is. There's still people like this. But now we have the internet, so we can be like, yeah, you run shit in a town of 58 people, but nobody in Wichita knows who the fuck you are. But this is the 1800s, so people just kind of had to deal with it. What you really need to know about the Sheltons is that they were known for how beautiful their daughters were. Their daughters were considered the most beautiful in the entire county, and this is something they were very proud of, particularly the mother. Now, Olivia, the youngest Shelton, was considered the most beautiful by far. He doesn't give a fuck. One day, Olivia goes into town and she sees a young girl very similar to her age begging for money. The girl has really dirty, torn clothes and really dark, mangled hair. Olivia asks what her name is, and the girl doesn't say anything. She just holds out her hand for money. Olivia feels so bad for her that she's like, you're coming home with me, and takes the girl home, which is a very weird thing to do because the girl couldn't even tell her her name, much less what she was doing there or if her parents were in the area. Like, I think technically Olivia kidnapped this girl, but either way, she takes her back to her house and they get her cleaned up. They give her some of Olivia's clothes to wear, and they tell her that she can stay in the house as long as she wants to. But there's a problem. Once they get this girl cleaned up, they realize that she is extremely beautiful. She's got these like stunning blue eyes and this gorgeous blonde hair. The Shelton boys immediately take notice of this and are infatuated with her. At this point, the mom becomes extremely worried because remember, they were known as the most beautiful girls in the entire county, and she's worried that if this girl gets out, she's going to take their reputation. So she tells the girl, hey, for your safety, you should just stay here and never leave. And the girl just doesn't even respond. So I guess she was fine with it. I don't know. And so the mom's like, bet. Now nobody will know, and this will just be our secret, and we can keep our reputation. But her sons have big fucking mouths, and they go and tell everyone about this really hot girl that's living in their house. So the next thing they know, the Sheltons have all these random people and a ton of bachelors and also married men showing up to their house just trying to get a glimpse of this girl through the window. Olivia's mother and sisters are extremely jealous of all this attention that the new girls are getting. But weirdly, Olivia doesn't mind. Olivia is completely nice to the girl and apparently tried to get her to talk multiple times, and the girl never did. But she never felt threatened by her. She was totally cool with it until one day, the boy that Olivia likes knocks on their door and asks to take the mystery girl out for a walk. At this point, Olivia is devastated. She goes to her mom and she's like, we have to get her out of here. Like, let's just put her back on the street and then we don't have to worry about it. And Olivia's mom is like, yeah, but here's the thing. People kind of know that she's living with us, and it's going to look really bad if we just kick her out on the street. But don't worry, bitch has a plan. So Olivia's mother goes to their local minister and is like, hey, you've probably noticed all these guys that are showing up at our house. The only way they could be this infatuated with this girl is if she was a witch. And the minister's like, you know what? Nobody's listening to the boring shit that I'm saying anymore. I bet that's the problem. They're probably all bewitched by this girl. I don't know if you knew this, but in this time period, being accused of being a witch is the best way to control F5 yourself. And also, at this point, religious leaders have a lot of influence over the government. And thank God we don't have to deal with that anymore. He said, very sarcastically. The minister calls up the town council and he's like, here's what's going on. We think this girl's a witch. Let's hold a trial. And they're like, okay, yeah. And she can come defend herself. And Olivia's mom is like, no, because everyone who controls the trial is going to be a man. And if she comes and represents herself, then she's going to be able to hypnotize all the men and then she's going to get away with it. And the town council was like, well, we can't do that. This has to be a fair trial. And she gets to defend herself because that's how it works in the justice system. Psych. They were like, bet, I have a tea time at 8:30. Let's wrap this shit up. So they hold a trial. The girl's not there. She doesn't even know this is going on. She's still at the Shelton's house thinking everything's fine. They find her guilty almost immediately. So Olivia's mom gets the whole town riled up and they're like, let's take care of this shit tonight, which is crazy and just goes to show how bored everyone was because I can't get 4 of my friends to do something that they like next week. And she was able to get all of them to go murder somebody that night. At this point, Olivia is looking at the mob and she's like, this might be my fault. And so she tries to stop them, but at that point, they're like, no, we're taking care of this. They go to the Shelton house. They pull the mystery girl out of her bed and tie her to a post and parade her through the town. All the onlookers are yelling insults at her. Some of them are spitting on her. Some of them even punched her. They take her to this huge hole in the ground. They throw her in the hole and they bury her alive under a pile of rocks. At no point did she ever defend herself or fight back. And the only thing she was ever recorded as saying the entire time was right before they threw her in the pit, she yelled, "I am Sadie Baker." After Sadie's death, life just kind of moved on for everybody. Olivia married the guy whose very attention caused Sadie to get killed, and they had a couple kids, and everything seemed to be okay. Until one night, Olivia starts showing really strong paranoia, and she starts screaming at her husband. And she's like, you wish that you married Sadie instead of me, and you wish that I was the one that died. And he's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So he goes to the minister, the same minister who signed Sadie's death warrant, and he's like, I don't know what the fuck to do with her. And the minister's like, I know what happened. I bet she was possessed when Sadie died, and so we have to do an exorcism. So they do an exorcism, and Olivia's still not doing very well. So the minister's just like, sorry, that's all I can do. And he leaves. So one day, at the end of his wits, the husband comes home, and Olivia is standing in front of a mirror, and she's cut all of her hair out with garden shears. And he's like, Olivia, are you okay? And she's like, I'm not Olivia, I'm Sadie. And he's like, the fuck are you talking about? You're Olivia. And she's like, no, I am Sadie Baker. I had to cut my hair out because my hair's supposed to be blonde, not brunette. I'm Sadie Baker. And she just kept screaming it over and over. I'm Sadie Baker. I'm Sadie Baker. Until she runs into the woods and she's never seen again. Cut to the present. People in Coffee County say that you can hear laughing and sometimes screaming and sometimes crying coming from those very woods. And people who visit Sadie Baker's headstone that we talked about earlier say that they get like a deep sense of just unsettlement and fear and dread whenever they're at the tombstone. And some people have even said they see an apparition of a young girl around the tombstone. A lot of people think that this is Sadie and her spirit is looking for her body. And some people even say that it's Olivia and her just profound guilt has not let her move on, and so she guards the grave. It's a tradition that when you visit the grave, some people will leave coins or personal trinkets there to try to ward off the spirit from coming home with them. The story of Sadie Baker is really tragic and really intense and really interesting. But did it happen? Probably not. We don't know where the story came from. There's no like original publication of the story. This is something that's just been passed down orally, which is really interesting. And so we don't know where the truth stops and where the legend begins. There's a historian in the area by the name of Lyle Russell who actually looked into it, and he looked into the Coffee County property records, and he found that around that time, there were people with the surname Shelton and there were people with the surname Baker. But there was no one by the name of Sadie Baker. However, there was a woman by the name of Sarah Baker, and Sadie was a common nickname for people named Sarah. The only problem is that Sarah Baker owned property both before and after the Civil War. She had multiple kids, and she also died late in her 60s. So that is far from the young beggar that is in the story. Russell suggests that maybe somebody started spreading the rumor about Sarah after she died because they didn't like her. But honestly, that's a pretty good rumor. Like, she was so hot, the entire town killed her. I would take that. If I knew that was going to be my legacy, I would die right now. I feel worse for Olivia. Like, what did she do that she's been framed as the crazy, jealous woman this whole time? Another idea is that this story was probably spread down to kids as a way to teach them the dangers of being jealous of people, which is also really interesting. Overall, it's just a really cool story. It's a really fun local thing that I had heard about, and it was fun to learn more. And who knows, maybe it's true. Maybe there is a ghost of Sadie or Olivia, and maybe they haunt us to warn us about the dangers of being envious or teaching us not to help the homeless. I don't know, probably one of those things.